Hello. In this next lesson, we're going to be taking a look at some different statuses of the journal entries within X3. Specifically, we're going to be taking a look at the actual journal entries versus what's referred to as being a simulated journal. So, what you'll notice here, if we go into the journal entry functions, under Financials, Journals, and Journal Entry, in here, one of the fields that we set when we're booking the journal entry is this category field. All right, so the different options that we have in here, one would be the actual journal entry. So the actual journal entry is basically a standard posted entry to the general ledger that would be booked by an accounting manager to recognize some type of adjustment that you want to bring about to the statements. Now, with that, in this lesson, a couple other statuses that we want to take a look at. One is the active simulation, and the other is an inactive simulation. So these simulated journal entries can be used in instances whereby maybe there's a junior accountant that you wish to book the month-end adjustments, but prior to having the journal entries kind of finalized per se, you want the accounting manager or the CFO to review the journal entries. The simulated journal entries are a good way to do that. Okay, so you can kind of have a check and balance in place where the junior accountant initially books them as a simulated entry. Then once the journal entry is reviewed by the accounting manager and everything is deemed as being copacetic, they can go ahead and flip it over to an actual entry. All right. So a couple things to note within here. When you have a journal entry flagged as being an active simulation, whatever activity that you have expressed in the journal entry, that's going to go ahead and it'll show up in your GL details and in your trial balance figures. Whereby if the category is set to being an inactive simulation, then whatever activity is presented in the journal entry is not going to be reflected in the books. Okay, so with that, what we have here is the couple different tools within the system to manage simulated journal entries. So if I come under the Financials menu, then down to Current Processings, I have these different options under my Simulations section. The first option here being the Activation option. So this option here in part will convert any inactive simulation journal entries over to active simulation entries. All right. The second option within here, deactivation, is going to convert active simulation journal entries over to inactive simulation entries. The next option for cancel, this is the function that can be ran to delete active simulation journal entries. And the final option here for post, this is the function that can be ran to convert active simulation entries over to actual journal entries. Okay, so in here, when you run these functions, they're all going to be pretty similar. So for instance, if I come under the post option here, I can come in here and, I'll specify the legislation, for which I want to run. Then underneath here, I can go ahead and, filter on a particular document type or a particular journal code. I could filter on entries booked by a particular user. Okay. I can choose as to whether or not to include inactive simulations in here. I can specify a date range over which I want the function to run, so it would only act on journal entries booked over such and such accounting period. Then down here also in my generation section, I can indicate as to whether or not I want that journal entry, the actual journal entry, to have a temporary status or a final status. Then I can also specify the document type in the journal code that I want to have associated with the entry. Okay, so that is the function there. Let me go ahead and execute it here. I don't know if I have any entries currently in process that this would act upon, but let's go ahead and give it a try. And this will go ahead and generate a little log file for you indicating the active simulations that were converted over to an active journal entry. Okay, so I hope this video was of help to you. If so, I'd ask you to please remember to like and subscribe. And as always, if you have any questions, you can feel free to inbox me. Thanks a lot.